Hey everyone, Crazy Tech here. So today I'm going to make a video of kind of a sequel of a video I've already done. So let's get right into it. So my argument is iOS better than Android? My answer to that is yes. And here's why. My goal of this video today is not to make you guys mad. It's to tell you my opinions without you going on a rant paragraph in the comments. So I want to get my opinion out there, and today is going to be a very long video, so I hope what I have to say is very interesting to you guys, and you will stay throughout the entire video. So the first thing that people will say why iOS or why Android is better than iOS is because of customization. So basically anything on Android you can change to how you like it. You can have widgets, you can have, like on their watches, you can have customizable watch faces. On your home screen you can have your apps arranged in a certain way so it will look completely different. There are so many things that you can change about Android, which is nice if it's in certain people's hands. So I'll give you an example. So the thing great about Apple phones is that when you hand off your iPhone to someone else, they know how it works. So like, for example, when you go to the home screen, it just says press home to open, and then you do that. You push the home button, the one button on the front of the screen, you push it, and it opens. It goes to the lock screen. But on Android, you could have it arranged completely differently. You could have a different gesture, and it would be different for every single person. So basically, every single time you hand off your phone to someone else, they would not know how to work your phone. But the great thing about iOS is they will always know how to work your phone because it's always the same. It always looks the same, it's in the same arrangement every single time. And another reason why it's better that Apple phones do not have any, not much customization, is because on Android phones, when you customize your phone, it's nice for maybe a day. But then you just get used to it, and then it just goes on for daily. It's always the same, and you don't really notice a difference with it. But on iOS, it's better because even though you can't customize, every single feature works better, and you don't, when you change it, you can't change it. So it will always work how you want it, and you can't really mess up your phone unless you really try. So another point I want to make in this video is that Android releases every single feature, or I guess you could say Samsung releases so many features. Iris scanning, they release, there's rumors of there being an in-display fingerprint scanner, which is really cool. But then they're also trying to release, they were first at wireless charging. They were first at a lot of different things, but nobody really used them until Apple came out with it. Because what Apple does is they wait until it's perfected, the feature is perfected, and it will work well. So they also didn't implement OLED into their iPhones until just this year because it wasn't good. So they didn't have a good way to implement it into their phones. They could have, but it just wasn't really ready yet. And if you don't believe me, ask a Samsung user, right? And as long as they have wireless charging, ask them if they use wireless charging. I have a very, I'm willing to bet that they do not use wireless charging. Even though they have it on their phone and they can use it, they just don't, because they don't want to pay extra for a wireless charger. and they just, I don't know. When Apple goes into something, it gets really popular. For example, when Apple put in like the fingerprint scanner on a phone, there were already fingerprint scanners that existed, but it got way popular, and on almost every single phone, you can see right, like every single phone has some sort of Touch ID scanner. So where you touch it and it unlocks your phone. You touch your home button. Another thing, they were one of the first people to implement the notch. I know they weren't the first, but because like Essential and other people did it first, but once they implemented it, look at every single Android phone. They are implementing notches in every single new phone that comes out in like all of 2018. And even the Google Pixel 3 is also rumored to have a notch that cuts really deep into the display and it looks awful. And then also has a chin. But Apple, the good thing about them is they were one of the only ones to put a screen that would go all the way to the edge and then just have one bezel the same size and then have one notch at the top and no chin at the bottom. And that's what's good about them. They don't put in a feature until it's perfected. And another thing that might irk people or just make them really mad about Apple is they think they get rid of things way too early. For example, on the MacBook, they got rid of the DVD port, but we have moved to mobile. Like, there's not buying TV, like buying CDs is not nearly as common as it was before. Like, also, like, VCRs are also gone, and tapes. We've just moved to either maybe buying music or, like, using a streaming service like Spotify, Apple Music, or Pandora. But they also removed, like, the USB port on the MacBooks, and no one liked that because they want more options. If you want more options, go with Samsung, not with Apple. Because they are trying to get everyone to move into the future, and any feature that's like doesn't need to be there, they will take it out. But like the thing with USB, we've also moved to digital, so we don't really need that anymore. But then there's also USB-C, which is way more powerful. It can handle like two 4K monitor screens, like computers, side by side, and then it can still have extra like power because the USB-C power port is so powerful. And another thing that I want to go into is that you might be saying USB-C was only just implemented on the MacBook, but they didn't really invent it. I know that, but USB-C after that has gotten also very, very, very common. Like, pretty much on every single Android phone, they've implemented USB-C. And I wish they would implement USB-C on the iPhone, but the Lightning port, it's just so universal now. It's like there are so many accessories that they're using the Lightning port on that it'd just be better to just go wireless, completely wireless, get rid of the port, and use wireless charging completely. And I think Apple will do that because they're trying to push everyone to the future, just like they did with the headphone jack. They totally used courage. They really did use courage because they knew they would get so much hate for that, and they have. There is still people hating on them for that. But it's actually kind of nice because the wires are really annoying. They will get stuck on your neck, and they're just better to be out of your way. So like Bluetooth is really getting good. And like wires, I don't normally charge my phone with wires anymore. I just, since it has glass on the back, I just use my wireless charger that I bought, and it's so much better because you don't have to be looking for your charger and then plug it in. You just put it on the pad and you're done. And it might not be super fast, but most of the time when you're actually charging your phone, it's in the night, so it doesn't really matter. So when I want to like get my battery up really, really fast, I just use a wire because I know that it's way faster. But fast wireless charging is going to become a thing of the future, and that's when I think Apple will go completely wireless in about 2 years. So I would invite that if you don't have an iPhone 8 or an iPhone 10, if you don't have one of those phones, wait until next year and buy the new version of that because it'll be cheaper and it'll have the same features, but then you'll be able to go wireless. And so you'll buy a wireless charger, and if you already do have an iPhone 10 or an iPhone 8, you should buy a wireless charger so you can use that and try to go completely wireless. And you should come back to me and tell me how you like it, or if you don't like it. I want to know your opinions down in the comments. So some of you might be saying, yeah, you're getting this idea from someone else, and I am. Talos of Tech drew, and he came up with this idea, and I agree with him so much. Like, it is a great idea to just get rid of wires because they're so annoying. I cannot tell you how many times I've looked for a wire, but then I can't find it. It's just like gone. And then another thing is, like, even with my wireless earbuds, Beats, they say they're wireless, but they're not really. So they have a shorter wire. But the thing that's bad about wires is they break. So, like, I just used it, right, as normal use, but over time it just, like, split in half. Like, it's basically coming apart and the wires are coming out. That's why wires are not, they're not something that we need. Like, they're something that it's kind of like a compromise because we can't go completely wireless yet, but when we do, it'll be so much better because we won't have to deal with finding a wire and then plugging it into our phone. We can just put it on a wireless charger, and maybe we could implement wireless charging into like tables. So like you would just buy a table that has wireless charging in it and you just slap it on the table. Like, you can't do that with wires. And wires just fray. They're not they're not good. And then another thing that they removed that people are not happy with is MagSafe, right, on MacBooks. And it's just the charge port where you can plug it in and then it'll come out easily. So if like it's on a table and you put your foot on the wire, you're not going to trip over it. It's just going to come out. And it's just so much easier to use that. But MagSafe, it's like, okay, USB-C comes out pretty easily. And if you really want MagSafe that badly, they're still selling the MacBook Air. They're still selling that, and it still has MagSafe on it. And it's like, so you can just buy that. But if you really, really want it on one of some of the new MacBook Pros and the new ones, there's an accessory, and I'm not sure what it's called, but you can basically get MagSafe back. In fact, you can do that on your phone too. So I thought that was interesting. Another argument that I heard from multiple people is that Apple, Android, everything on Android is more open source. For example, you can get basically any app you want on Google. So on any Android phone, you can find you can download something directly from a website on Google, and then like you can access a bunch of songs for free, and there are a ton more apps on Google Play than the App Store. Like, I think it was like 100,000 more or something, like a lot more apps. And I think that's a good thing that Apple doesn't have as many apps, because first of all, it keeps your phone from getting viruses that could be on some apps you could access from the internet, or if you could or it could be on Google Play. And they like, even though Apple on their Apple Store doesn't have as many apps, they're all good apps and they're all useful. They won't slow down your phone, unlike Google Play. But even though people say Apple doesn't care about their customers, okay, so what is your reasoning for this? Why? Because everything of theirs costs a lot of money? Yeah, true. But that's because it's high quality. But another thing they might be saying is that they just don't, since they don't care about you, then why did they care about your privacy? How often do you hear about viruses on Android phones? A lot. But Apple, you don't hear about that as much, because you don't have a bunch of apps that are kind of useless. So as a result of that, you don't get as many viruses. But another thing that kind of annoys me about Android, basically every single Android phone, besides the Google Pixel, it takes so long for their phones to get updates. And even when they do, it takes a year and they don't even change much. Like, here's an example. So with Android Oreo, right, that came out last year, they added they moved the search bar and they changed the settings a little bit. That's it. But the thing about that is most Android phones are not running that system even still. And it's 2018, not 2017. But the Google Pixel is the only phone that got it immediately. Not even the Samsung Galaxy Note 8. Like, Samsung is the most popular Android smartphone, but it hasn't gotten the update for Oreo yet. And then Android P, they added stuff, but it's like, okay, Apple brought this up in their newest WWDC keynote, that only 7% of Android users are actually on the newest operating system. And that was with Android Oreo, I'm pretty sure. But with Apple, it's like 75%. Which do you think is better? Because you might be saying, yeah, all the updates that they added in iOS 12 this year to iPhones is like the same as Android P, but the difference is a lot more people are getting it. Most of the people on Android do not have the newest update because they have no reason to. They don't change enough, because since it's so customizable, you can't change it. And then another thing that reminds me about customization, the thing with the Google Pixel, right? So people are saying the Google Pixel is so great because it is stock Android. So the more you go into stock Android, the more you go into iOS, which means less customization. So what's the point of having a Google Pixel if the point of having Android is so you can customize your phone, but that version isn't very customizable? It's the most like iOS out of all of them. I don't get that. Yet people are saying, oh, you should buy the Google Pixel because it's so like close to stock Android. I thought that was the point of stock Android. Is I thought the point of Android was not to be customizable. And even if you don't have stock Android on your phone, you can get it so easily because of how customizable the Android system is. For example, you could get a Samsung phone and you could change it so you can make it look exactly like a Google Pixel phone. Exactly the same, and it would take you about 5 minutes. It's not that hard. Another thing that people might be saying is Samsung phones might be they might be getting the best new processors, but that are the fastest. But all the newest Androids are getting the faster processors, the Snapdragon 845. But the thing about that is it's still the iPhone 10, all the newest Apple flagships are even outperforming all the newest Samsung flagships. For example, even the iPhone 7 on Geekbench got a higher score than Samsung's Galaxy Note 8. It was the iPhone 7 from last year was even faster than their current smartphone that they're selling right now, the Galaxy S9. If you don't believe me, go look at as many YouTube videos as you want, and you will find that I'm right. I'm sorry for saying that, but I am right. And then another thing that I kind of discussed in the other video, the one before this, is that accessories for Android phones are so much harder to find than Apple phones. Like, you can find lightning earbuds, you can find lightning cases that will plug into your phone and charge it, and you don't need to be connected to a wire. You can use your phone case, and that's another reason why it's good. And another thing that I kind of discussed in the other video, the one before this, is that accessories for Android phones are so much harder to find than Apple phones. Like, you can find lightning earbuds, you can find lightning cases that will plug into your phone and charge it, and you don't need to be connected to a wire. You can use your phone case, and that's another reason why that is good. That it's good that Apple keeps the lightning port on the iPhone, and instead of getting rid of it and replacing it with USB-C port. Another example that is interesting is cases. You can find so many cases for an iPhone. Basically any model you can think of, you will find anywhere from 50 to maybe even 1,000 cases if you look up on Amazon. But if you look up a Samsung case, you might get maybe 20, I don't know, but a lot less, I can assure you that. Because Apple is way more widespread, and even though Android phones are selling more, over all of Android, there are so many companies, even though they're all outselling combined Apple's one company. Android is thousands and thousands of phones. Apple, and that's another thing why Apple is better, because Apple, when you say, I'm going to buy an Apple phone or an iPhone, you're buying, let's see, an iPhone SE, an iPhone 6S, an iPhone 6S Plus, an iPhone 7, an iPhone 7 Plus, an iPhone 8, an iPhone 8 Plus, or a 10. That's all you have the options to buy. But when you say I'm going to buy an Android phone, you could be talking about Samsung, LG, Oppo is another example, OnePlus is another example, Essential, which they're defunct. But that just goes back to how much bigger Android is, and each version of Android is different than the other. Like, Samsung can put a bunch of stuff on their phone that just totally messes up with the operating system. And even though they have, like, a bunch of, like, these apps and stuff that Samsung puts on their phones, most people just ignore, but, like, the people, like the really techie people will just hate on, because there's no reason for them to be there. For example, on a Samsung phone, there are 2 calculators. Why? I don't know. There are 2 calendar apps. Again, I don't know. And they just give you way too many options, but none of their options for, like, biometrics are secure. Right? So, iris scanning, not secure. Like, the face unlock, it just takes a picture of your face, so it'd be so easy for someone to just take a picture of you, put it up to the phone, and unlock it, and it would work perfectly. But I like that with Apple, even though they give you one choice, it's really good. Like, Touch ID is so fast, and even with Face ID, it's almost impossible to hack. It's so hard. But like, another thing, since Samsung gives you so many options, it's too many options. Like, they have the Google Assistant on it, and they have the Bixby button. And for a while, you could either keep it on and just use it for Bixby, which is a terrible assistant. She is so bad that, and then there's also, like, she's so bad that she's worse than Siri, and a lot of people think Siri's bad. Well, you should see Bixby, because she is so much worse. And then they have a button, and they put it on for her. That's, like, it was exclusive to Bixby for that button. They called it the Bixby button, and you could turn it off, and then it would just be totally useless. And that just shows how they come out with features that are not perfected. And then another example is, like, with animojis, right? Samsung came out with AR emojis, but have you seen how creepy those things are? I've seen them, and they give, like, they're really creepy. So, to those of you who have stayed throughout the entire video and listened to my opinions, thank you so much. That is the kind of person that is awesome. I am so glad that you stayed throughout the entire video, and if you enjoyed, subscribe for more content, and thank you for watching. And for those of you who didn't stay to the end of the video, well, then hopefully you'll stay till the end of the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.